You should get to have a place where you can be silly and try out stuff that's maybe a little looser, try out stuff that's killer and have people roar with laughter because they're all paying attention.
You're listening to Comedy Ghost Town, where we investigate why Albuquerque, New Mexico has no designated stand-up comedy club. My name is Sarah Kennedy. Throughout this podcast, we've been exploring why Albuquerque, New Mexico doesn't have a comedy club. And we've had some high highs and some low lows and lots of stuff to explore. But this is the season finale, and not because I don't think that there aren't more stories that can be told, but because as of June, Albuquerque will have a stand-up comedy club. And actually, it's being started by me and my wife, Kelli. So in today's episode, I sat down with Kelli and we kind of talked through some stuff that's on our mind when it comes to the comedy club and the steps that we're going through to open it. So, woo! Please enjoy this episode. And if you feel like supporting, you can find our Indiegogo. I'll put information for that in the episode description. But more information coming soon. Enjoy. Okay, so at what point during this process did you think that this was maybe possible?
What, opening a comedy club?
Yeah.
I thought it was possible throughout, but I tend to be an idealist. But you and I have been talking about this for, what, like 5 years, basically? I don't know. I thought it was always just a thing that we just kicked around for fun. What if we were rock stars? What if we opened a comedy club? But then we went and visited Denver. And I had been listening to your podcast at this point, mostly listening to you record it. But then when we went to Denver for my work and when you were at Comedy Works and everything, and Brett was in town, Brett took us all over to like Rise and the Denver Comedy Underground and
Wide Right.
Yeah, exactly. And all of those spaces, they're all great, but they didn't seem like impossible feats of engineering. Of course, Comedy Works seemed like a club.
And it is. It's beautiful.
Yes, love it. Every single one of these places is gorgeous and fantastic. But Rise, I was like, oh, this is something that like you and I have maybe the budget to do. Mm-hmm. If we work really hard. And then we had some good work news.
Yeah, that was awesome.
With a bigger budget came bigger plans.
Yeah.
So what about you? When did you think it was possible?
I think Denver, honestly, like when I went to the Denver Comedy Underground and got to see Brett do a Comedian's Power Hour on that stage.
Yeah.
I just thought, this is great. It's in the basement of a church. And I was like, if comedy can thrive in the basement of a church, then we'd have a pretty good chance of having it exist in Albuquerque.
Yeah.
And so I thought that was good. And then when I started the podcast, I really just thought it was going to be like some research and development for somebody else. Just somebody could come through and just pick up where we stopped and then go and open a club here. But then in conversation, like anytime I'd be on the radio or talking about stuff, it's like I could recall all this information. Like I have all of it, yeah. And you have all of it because you hear me talk about it too. And like you've done all these interviews and stuff next to me and helped me put on festivals in New York. Like you have almost a decade's worth of comedy production experience, which is wild.
Isn't that neat?
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. Yeah, and before that I had produced readings and stuff, but a reading is a little bit different than comedy. Not that different, but everyone's a little more timid typically. I don't know if you've talked about this on this podcast or not, but you and I play this game where any new place that we're in, yeah, it's like, where does the comedy go? Yeah. And during COVID, or like during the lockdown, we also played that game with, where in this Zillow, which of these Zillow listings could we turn into a comedy club secretly? Mm-hmm. Which also is partially why we had that experience when we decided to move back to Albuquerque. Yeah. We found the store, which was our first apartment here, and it was just like a giant studio apartment that was an old store.
Yeah. And we had that awesome house show in it.
Yeah, it was so good. And it was like, that was like, I think February 2020.
That show was Royal hosted it.
Yeah.
And then it was Katie Bowman and Gabby Gutierrez Reed. We're going to see up in Trinidad.
Whoop, whoop. Yeah, that show was awesome. We I don't know, we packed the front of our studio apartment.
We did.
/ former Ace Hardware store out with 40 people. It was great.
It would have been really awesome if
we could have kept that going. So we did. We tried the Greg Comedy Basement model. Except Greg Comedy front half of the studio apartment.
Not as catchy.
Yeah. So we've been talking about this forever is what all I'm trying to say.
Yeah, that's true. What's your biggest worry right now?
Right now is that I tore my rotator cuff painting the ceiling with the roller.
That would be bad.
No. Really biggest fear right now. I don't know. I'm not really very nervous about it. I think we've prepped. I'm worried that a lot of people are gonna want to try to impose their own vision for the space onto the space, which is fine. Like on some level it is a blank canvas on purpose, right? That is what a comedy club is at some level, creatively speaking. But yeah, I don't know. I think whenever you start something cool, people are like, I have an idea. And I tend to just be very like, yes, let's do it. So right now I'm trying to make sure that I guard against getting too far away from our own plans for it.
Yeah, for sure. Because that's another thing too that we mentioned when we were coming up with the original plan for this is we don't want this to replace the comedy scene that already exists here.
Oh, no.
And we don't want it to be even maybe the only club that ever...
No, hopefully more come. I just think we're trying to be like artist forward, equal opportunity space that's mid-size and is like the cool hang that people want to come be at when they're in town. And it's just as cool to perform there if you're like a local comic as if you're traveling through town.
Yeah.
I think we both want it to be like accessible, but not muddled in purpose.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
And the shows that already exist here are fantastic. Mm-hmm. They're amazing. That's why it's like such a shame that there isn't already a comedy club here, because this should be happening everywhere, all over. Yeah. I don't know. What do you think? What is your biggest fear?
My biggest fear is that we're not going to strike a balance between what we can afford and the quality that we want. And either things are going to look really shabby or it's going to take us forever to open because we're going to want to wait till we have enough money to do things
gorgeously.
Yeah, which I do want. But
and I can only paint so much.
I know now.
Down to one arm.
What do you think when people find out that we are the ones doing it, their biggest fears are?
Oh, no, it's going to be too cool. I'm just kidding. No, I don't know. I know that in earlier episodes, I think Buck D was expressing concern, even when he didn't know, because at that time,
we didn't
even know that we were going to be opening this space, but that a comedian-run space falls into favoritism and personal bias. So I think a lot of people are really worried, especially like the more, we've been calling them spicy, right? The more spicy comedians are going to be worried that, oh, shoot, these little cuties are opening a comedy club. They're not going to want my spicy stuff.
You know how spicy comedians are always saying, oh, shoot, these little cuties.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think they're a little bit worried about the tone, as evidenced by my answer. But what about you? I'm sure you are worried about that kind of stuff.
I'm a little bit worried about that. I want to make sure. It's weird. So you and I are on the same page about comedy being like a place to grow and create, sustain joy.
Yeah.
And I think that people come into comedy for their own reasons, and hopefully that's on the list of what people want to do. But if people want to be spicy for whatever reason that is, then that shouldn't mean that they can't, use the club. I just also don't. It's not a place to like harbor hatred. That's another thing. But so it's like finding that balance, but also what I consider to be hateful.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that there's some objectivity into what becomes hate for full on.
No, I would agree. And also, I don't know. I think that this is going to be a very broad statement because, everybody has opinions about everything going on right now with comedy.
Yeah. No hitting. We can.
Yeah, no hitting. We're not doing that until after hours in the Fight Club. But I feel like sometimes comedy has, any art form really has something that centers expression the way that like any sort of writing does, whether that's stand-up comedy, fiction, movies, whatever. People use to their own ends.
Oh, yeah.
And so if somebody has views that they want to spread, then they're going to spread them. And that's true in the way that you and I show up on the page. Our views happen to be like, spread joy, yeah? Or like, gay people are fine. And other people have views that are like, Nazis are fine. And that's not so good. I tend to draw the line at promoting genocide, but hey. So to me, like when you're talking about what is objectively hateful and like worrying about that, it's not even that I'm worried that, oh my gosh, people are going to come up and tell jokes that are offensive. It's more like, oh my gosh, people are going to come up and try to spread views that are hateful and ultimately end up hurting people. Like, I'm not interested in platforming people who are espousing violence against other people.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
It goes along with the no hitting.
Right, exactly. No hitting.
Yeah.
What's like a fun little thing that you want to make sure we have in the space?
Oh, so many things. First of all, anybody who is listening has to know the number of just absolutely silly bits that Sarah has planned in terms of even within like our marketing efforts or our outreach, or like suddenly you are in a space where you didn't expect there to be messaging and there's like you're in a bit, which is great. I think that's going to be the best part about the club, frankly. But I don't know. I'm pretty excited about the concept of the king chairs, which we don't have to talk about now, but
It's a fun surprise for later.
yeah. Or we've talked about that there's maybe going to be like a little bookshelf of local writers and stuff, which obviously I'm into. Surprise bigger shows. That's going to be fun. What about you? What are you most excited about?
I haven't even run this one by you yet, so it's not set in stone.
Okay.
But I was thinking with some of the art that we want to have in the space, we could incorporate some of the rules and communication into the space. So I thought like for us to have an explicit no heckling sign, but have it look really like pop art, tattoo-y. But have it be big enough that people know that it's serious. That was so. If you're out there listening right now, another thing that I have been doing because I am for some reason too nervous to tell him, is that I have found every podcast, every video, every interview that David Rodriguez has done throughout his process of opening the Comedy Fort in Fort Collins, and I've just re-listened to a lot of them just to glean some advice from our comedy club papa. And so that's yeah, and he had written in some, and I think a magazine article for Paste, that you should have no heckling be very explicitly said out loud, written down somewhere on the tickets. Just make sure everybody who comes into that space knows that it's something that A, doesn't help the show, and B, is not tolerated.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's cool, and we could do that in a really in an artsy way, in a cool kid way. So.
Well, and that's so important too. I'm glad you brought that up because like I'm just excited. Something I'm really excited about is like there being a dedicated place where it's shh, hush your mouth. Don't be on your phone. Don't be like drunk off your ass. Don't be like all over the place at this comedy show. You are here as an audience member to enjoy your time. And if you'd like to participate, there will be open mics later that you can sign up for. But I just think it's a different vibe, and other people have said this too, but I just really think it's a different vibe. If you're a comedian, I would imagine, because I will never do comedy, no thank you. I am proud of all of y'all for doing it. I cannot do it. That being said, I think it must be just like a totally different experience going into an ambush show or a mic at a bar or a brewery or whatever, and having to just fight tooth and claw for authority on stage. You should get to have a place where you can be silly and try out stuff that's maybe a little looser, try out stuff that's killer and have people roar with laughter because they're all paying attention. Not just be like, wait, what did they say? And turn around and walk back from the bathroom and all this stuff. So I'm excited about that too. But
Oh, this is an interesting thing for us to talk about. Why aren't we getting a liquor license? But listeners will understand why we probably didn't want to go for a liquor license, but why are we pushing through without one?
because we hate fun. No, just kidding. No, it's because there's like so much liability. Also, we have some means to get this off the ground, but we are not rich by any means. We were just like, hey, this could be fun. And yeah, liquor is expensive. Also, we're really like, what we're trying to do is build community in downtown.
Yeah.
And there are already there's already a lot of good comedy presence down here, but it would just be nice to be able to have a comedy club that doesn't have to focus on the chicken nuggets and doesn't have to focus on the drinks and instead can focus on the comedians and at the same time can promote local businesses that we know and love, that know and love us, that probably see us a little too often. I don't know. Did you have other reasons for not?
No, I think they're expensive still, even though they're trending down. And the liability is just really scary. I would hate to be the reason why somebody decided to drink and drive. Like we'd be the last place they went before they made that choice for themselves. That doesn't sit really well with me.
Yeah.
If and when we do get a liquor license, it's going to be one of those things where we're particularly by the book about it. I just can't imagine being loosey-goosey about it.
When we were ever talking about it at all and just being like, ugh, we can't do it because liquor, and then stopping talking about it like 5 years ago, our conversations. You mentioned to me recently that you wanted to copy one of the clubs in Austin.
Fallout Theater.
Yeah. And how did you put it? Did you want a Truly? Did you want a beer?
I
Just want
literally,
a glass of wine.
all I want is a space that has one IPA, one Truly, mango flavor probably, and then probably like a wine of some sort, like a rosé probably. Or
Yeah.
So I'm not asking for us to be serving like old fashions and fancy smoked cocktails or anything like that to people who are coming for jokes, but to be able to have 3 cans that you can pick from and be like, I'll take the wine in the can, please, is doable, totally doable, but it takes an entire liquor license unless we want to start serving food, which we can't because we've got stadium chairs and not tables.
Also, we're okay at food, but we're not the best cooks.
No.
We know a lot of very good cooks.
One of the venues that we looked at here in town had a huge pizza oven, and we did go through the idea of what if we were a comedy place and we gave out pizza and a little Chuck E. Cheese model.
We had full-on designed the boxes in our heads, and we were going to say on the inside, like, we know this pizza tastes funny. A comedy is better. Come see comedy. But we're still planning on doing pizza.
Oh, yeah. So we're working on getting a pizza partnership so that pizza can be provided, but not necessarily made on site or anything like
Not
that.
by
No. Pizza by people who know better.
Pizza experts.
Yeah. That reminds me, this is a good question actually too. Where else have we ideated putting a place? So the one we're in right now used to be a yoga studio, and it's in downtown. And I had an entire episode about like where in town would it go. So there's some understanding of the layout of the land.
Sure, yeah. We had talked at one point about opening or like partnering with other comedians to open something, and their suggestion was to put it on the west side CVS.
Oh yeah, over by Cibola High School.
Yeah. Which we still think is good.
It's a big space.
It's too far away for us.
But it's got a lot of parking, and there's a lot of night. It's like pretty close to Salt Yard, where there's a really great comedy show right now. So
right, and that's really important. Like as much as there is like a downtown comedy scene right now, there's not like the place for comedy downtown.
Yeah,
with the exception of Inside Out, which is only one day a week, and it's on Monday.
Yeah.
So
Founders.
Yeah, Founders. Yeah.
So then we also looked at the winning coffee that was over by the university.
Oh, man, we wanted that one so bad.
What made it so special?
So there were we liked it because, and this is what we're trying to do with our build out in the new space, but we liked winning because it was already built out to where there was like, there are two entrances. We were going to block off one. When you go into the first entrance, the one that's closer to Central, there was like an area that we could put a little stage, like a open mic stage. And then there was seating and a bar area. So if we did have a liquor license or a taproom partner or something like that, we could hook up there, sell stuff, make it a coffee shop during the day, no problem. Then on the other side of the winning coffee, where there's like, when it used to be winning, as you've told me, I haven't been there when it's been functional. There used to be like just a general seating area with a little like bricked in small semicircle booth in the corner. And so we were like, great, that little bricked in area is already the tech booth. We would just curtain off this whole back area. There are bathrooms built in. Mm-hmm. It's flat, so it's ADA compliant. Like we could, on huge packed out shows, open up the curtains and have extra seating in the like cafe area. And most importantly, it came with a parking lot that was metered right outside of UNM, which you went to UNM.
Yeah. And when it was Winning's parking lot, they monitored it themselves. And so I was under the impression that we could have used that as additional income to help supplement the comedy that happened inside, which would have been bonkers.
Yeah, the plan was basically to just own a parking lot with a comedy club on it.
Yeah.
But they never got back to us, probably because they were like, you dum-dums.
These goofballs. These little cuties.
These little cuties. They're going to be so mad if we're spicy. I'm also trying not to cuss on this podcast because I know your mom will be listening.
That's very true.
But yeah, we tried it there where we reached out to people there. We thought about right outside of Boxing Bear in West downtown. Yeah. Also another that's the pizza place. That was the pizza place. Mm-hmm. Where else did we think?
The Hops Brew, the tap room up in Nub Hill.
Yeah.
And a couple of those spots there too. Like the one that ended up being the upstairs for Lizard Tail.
Uh-huh.
We looked there because I knew they had the downstairs for Lizard Tail, and I thought that would give us like a real basement moment.
It was funny because when Caleb started the Lizard Tail mic there, we were like, dang. And then we were like, no, this is good. It's good that there's comedy in this space. That's awesome. So I'm just glad that there's something going on in there. We also you wanted, above all, Laruna Hadi.
I do. I always want Laruna Hadi. That place is great. If you've never been to Albuquerque or you've never been to Nub Hill, Laruna Hadi is the following things all under one roof. It is a cigar humidor. It's a gift shop. It is a hair salon and studio. And it is a Cuban restaurant. They have a giant basement that they rarely use. The only time I've ever gotten a peek of their basement was because I went to get my eyebrows waxed, and they moved the chair for eyebrow waxing down to this basement. It's giant, and we had to go in this dark, empty basement, and then they were like, sit there, and I was like, I just want my eyebrows
to take your eyes.
Yeah.
Jesus. They were just gonna like Clockwork Orange you.
Yeah, exactly.
You would pluck your eyebrows. Where else? Oh, so many times we've been like, this house, we could buy this house because it has a room for comedy. We could buy this house because it has a room for comedy.
Could buy this inn.
Yeah, the Railroad Inn.
We almost bought a full inn.
Yeah, literally the Railroad Inn. Yeah,
yeah. It's for sale if anybody.
For sure haunted. Yeah, we truly, we got this comedy club not only because it was time and things started falling into place, but also so that we could stop playing this game.
Yeah.
Because it was all encompassing.
Yeah, it was quite the game. But we pretty much, besides almost buying that house in Uptown that had a back room in it for comedy, we've kept everything pretty downtown, Old Town, Nob Hill.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm trying to think if there's anywhere else that we thought about doing it. Yeah, no.
Sorry, Heights.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. What other thoughts do you have?
For as serious as, for as much as this is like a true business. And in that way, it is serious. This is just a very silly endeavor that we're doing. And I think that we think together, and correct me if I'm wrong, could be like really beneficial for a lot of people. And that's fun. That's cool. I like that we're approaching it this way because comedy should be fun.
I agree. Yay.
What else? Is there anything else you want to say? This is the end of the season, right?
It is the end of the season.
Do you have any fond memories?
Yeah, so many. But also what's interesting is that there are still so many more stories to be told. Like I know we've alluded to what happened with the Comedy Vault, and we haven't told that story yet.
Oof.
I want to interview other people who've moved away. I still need to interview my parents. So there's definitely, I think, a second season in us because we can also talk about the process of getting this open. So
yeah. I never thought it was going to be, I mean, something that like has not worried me, but is like surprisingly difficult is the act of building.
Yeah, what is that about?
It's we've built things before, but like building in a commercial space is like the most red tape thing I've ever experienced in my entire life.
And the permit you have to put up red tape.
And building signs, they're crazy.
Building signs are expensive. That was wild. Absolutely. All right. I'm sure people will love to hear all about that in season 2, Comedy Ghost Town.
Comedy, does it count as a ghost town now?
We have such, I don't know.
Is it what, a one-horse town?
Yeah, it's a comedy one-horse town.
But the horse is a ghost.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Good.
it's still a ghost town.
But it's a comedy
Horse
ghost town. Good. Okay. Now it incorporates both of our interests.
This is why I don't do comedy. I love you.
I love you too.
Something else I want to say is if you do want to support, and we've gotten a lot of people reaching out being like, I can help build, I can help host things, I can do all types of things. Really right now, we super appreciate you. Anything that you can do is awesome. We are just so excited to bring this to y'all and to give you guys a space to perform basically, or to come see comedy. It's going to be awesome. But if you did want to help right now, our biggest issue is that thanks to the building and the sign, we are trying to raise money on our fundraiser on Indiegogo. So if you could share or donate, that would be great. And another way that you can support us and also have a great time is to come to the May 8th show at Hotel Andaluz, which Sarah can tell you more about.
Yeah, for sure. It's featuring JD Happersat and Eddie Pepitone. They're both fantastic, amazing performers, and we're super excited to get to have them in Albuquerque. So
they're amazing.
And then also Steph Darnell's on the show and Josh Fournier, and I'm hosting it. So it's a good night. It's a good night.
It's going to be so fun. Mm-hmm. I'm super excited.
Yeah. All right. Heck. This has been Comedy Ghost Town, produced by me, Sarah Kennedy. If you'd like more information about me or the podcast, go to my website, sarahkcomedy.com. If you would like more information about Dry Heat Comedy Club, you should go to dryheatcomedyclub.com.